Hey there. All right, so I'll just get going. I'm going to try to keep this relatively quick. So, my name is Will Stevens. I'm the lead developer here at CloudOps for the professional services team, and is it on now? That's what I thought. Okay. All right. My name is Will Stevens. I'm the lead developer at CloudOps on the professional services client-facing teams. I am the current release manager, and hopefully we'll have 4.9 released very soon. And I'm also the current ACS VP. As a VP and as a member of the community over the next little while, I'll be focusing a lot on making sure that we can, as a community, realize distributed CI, and I'm really looking forward to work with the guys from Accelerate. They put a lot of work into this, and I would like to be able to better utilize the stuff that they've created. We have a bunch of other people in the community who are also working on this, so it's a topic that we have quite a bit of momentum around, and we have a lot that we can improve. So that's one thing I really do want to focus on. Another thing is trying to actually distribute the workload for the release manager. I did not realize how much work it was until I did it, and then I got in there and I was like, holy crap. This is I'm getting my ass kicked by this, and this is not fun. For a project sustainability perspective, it makes a lot of sense for the project to be able to better manage itself from a release management workflow perspective, and making sure that somebody can feasibly step up as a release manager to do a release and not necessarily feel like it's going to dominate their life. One of the things that I think is actually going to make that more of a realistic situation is I have been able to get the ASF to agree to move the Apache, the CloudStack repo from the Apache GitHub org to Apache CloudStack. And the great thing about that is that it gives the CloudStack community and the PMC control over the features that we use at GitHub. Whereas right now, I know we've covered this a lot on the mailing list, but right now, basically, all of the permissions in the Apache org are across all projects. So their hands are tied really on what they can give us. And we've been asking for things, and Seb has done a great job of getting us to the point where we can use GitHub. But the long and the short of it is that we have to use a very limited subset of the features, because everything that they enable as the ASF infra team, everything that they enable us to use in GitHub has to be basically the same permissions as every other repository for Apache. And so if we want to be able to just do a red-green status of distributed CI of all right, Accelerate's CI is green and Shape Blues is blue or is red. Why is that? We have to do that all through comments right now. We don't have a way to gate on that, and that's simply because we don't have access to status. And so, with this move, we're going to be able to start to better define how we as a project need to handle. What the? Je ne sais pas. Oh. All right. All right. I'll just touch my mouse every once in a while. So that's going to give us a lot more flexibility as a project to be able to solve our own problems a little bit better. So in terms of the actual state of CI, our current test cases are very limited. We're not testing Hyper-V. We're not testing VMware for the most part. Like some people are, but we don't have a feedback mechanism for the people who are testing things and them being able to report back what it is that they're actually testing and like what's failing, what's not. We don't have a prescription about what it is that we're testing and where our blind spots are and that kind of thing. So our CI covers a very small use case, and that's a problem. And other than what Accelerate has built and is running, we don't have automation in place to basically pick up a PR and then basically test it end to end, know the status of that PR, and then move on. And I think with the work that they're doing and the work that that a few other people in the community are doing, I think that we're starting to get to where we at least know where the edges are here, and getting to the point where we can build a system that will allow us to do end-to-end automation. And obviously, we need to do a lot of work on the stability of our tests and the and what tests get run when. Because right now, if you run all the tests, it will take 60 hours, and it will run over 1,300 tests. About 80 will be skipped, about 80 will fail, and about 80 will error. And the problem right now is that, well, we can't run 60-hour test suite on every PR. That doesn't make sense. And we don't have the ability, because so many tests fail and error, we don't really have the ability to damn it. Okay, now we're back. Let me just change my power settings, sorry. All right, that shouldn't happen anymore, sorry. Yeah, so we need to work on our tests. Optimizing the, no, it's, I changed the power settings, it'll be fine now. Now I just need to find my mouse, okay. All right, we're good. We need to work on the tests quite a bit. Being able to be able to run tests that are only relevant to the PR, or run a general set of tests and another set that is only relevant to the PR, is going to be an important initiative. We've had a lot of conversations about that over the last couple days, and there's a lot of really good ideas there, and I think that we're going to be able to come up with some solutions that make sense. In terms of the good stuff, with the move, we're going to be able to start to better integrate the automated end-to-end testing, which is important. People are starting to realize that this is a problem that we need to solve, and we're starting to get people involved. There's a lot of different teams are working on this. Some that we know of, some that we don't. I've found other people, just while we were in conversation, that other people who are not listed here also have their own like automated setup and stuff like that, which is a big piece of this. So there's quite a bit of momentum around this, and I think that we're going to be able to make something really good out of all the work that other people have been doing, and the community in general. Here are a few of the projects. Bubble Toolkit was developed by Schubert Phyllis, and they currently support it. I spent quite a bit of time with Bubble over the last 3 months. I've been working with Remy and the team there to make sure that both the CloudStack use case and the Cosmic use case are both covered. We've recently implemented a way to basically override in the file structure so that you can have a commonality of code, and then if something changes, like for example, Cosmic, they use Java 8 and we use Java 7. So for example, you can basically now just override one file, and you can pretty much, if you put a file in a directory, it will automatically override the default. So it allows you to more easily manage the differences as those projects diverge. We can manage the differences without having to change the way that everything is built. The nicest thing about Bubble really is the fact that you can go from basically not having anything to having a working CI in about an hour and a half. And essentially, you have pretty much one command line that will basically pull down the entire project. It will run it. It will install everything that you need. It will basically get you to the point where you can pretty much do a deploy, run, and you don't even know you don't have to know what happens for the most part. You can pretty much just run one command line and have everything set up, do some minor configuration, and then you have like 1 or 2 calls, and you're pretty much like up and running tests. That is something that we need to aspire to as a community for this type of thing, and I'll get into that more a little bit later. The cloud automation tool, that's the GitHub link to it. This is what the Accelerate guys have been working on, and they obviously just gave you a much better presentation than this, but they're currently testing with Zen. It has a little bit more complex setup than Bubble does. We're working together to try to get some documentation in place so that the CloudStack community can better adopt it, and so that we can contribute, get our own environments set up as well, so that we have more CI environments around the world that are able to take advantage of all the work that they've done. And some of the stuff that's really good is they are able to automate the testing from end to end of PRs automatically. It will go and pull the PR, and as you guys have probably seen, like the last 3 or 4 days, I think they've probably contributed like probably 20 to 30 runs, maybe 10 to 20 runs. Just while they've been here, it's been off chugging away and pushing reports back to the community. So that is a really positive thing, that it's hands-off, it's just running, and it's just producing test results. That's what we need to get to. The Shape Blue guys are working on Trillion. I got a little bit of a demo of it. It still kind of hasn't had its debut, but the foundation of the stuff that they're working on, the principles that they're basing on, is interesting. I think there's definitely some promise there as well. But the beautiful thing here is that there doesn't have to be one system. Ideally, we'll get to a point where we have an orchestration layer that any of these can plug into an orchestration layer that can kick off jobs on any of the systems. And the good thing about having more than one project here is that the diversity of what we are actually testing is valuable for a project, because the diversity in this project is the hard thing to test. And so I see the fact that we do have multiple projects here, and we do have people approaching the problem from many sides, as a huge asset, because we're only going to have a better result out of multiple people working on it. So I think that's a really good thing. So where are we headed? I think getting to the point where CI can be automated from end to end, so that anybody can pick up the CI platform and be able to say, I want to contribute to CI, and I don't really know what I'm doing, but I have some hardware here, and I want to be able to contribute this hardware to CloudStack to do some testing. They need to be able to pretty much just go and run 1 or 2 things and have everything just set up for them. They can put in some configuration about this is how I want to configure this, but that needs to be pretty much a no-brainer for them to be able to get up and running without necessarily having to know everything about how CloudStack works. That is going to be an important piece. That also enables the ability to distribute CI environments, because then a vendor, we can start to enforce, all right, Mr. Vendor, no one seems to be supporting your project, your plugin, so we would like to have you contribute CI to show that your plugin still works every time there's like over a period of time. And then if we can make that the first bullet point easy and make it so that they don't necessarily have to know the entire stack, we can then just basically give them a recipe to say, this is how you need to be able to test. And they can configure in their own plugin, they can configure in their own hardware. I'm going to pick on SolidFire, for example. Not everybody has SolidFire. Some of us do, some don't. But I know that they run a lot of tests on SolidFire stuff that we don't have visibility to. And I know they're, like, Mike is starting to push some stuff upstream in terms of like testing like SolidFire if you have hardware. But the truth of the matter is that they're in the best position to be able to test, to validate that everything works. So if they can contribute the results of the tests to the community in a way that the community can consume, and we make it easy for them to be able to set up an environment in order to contribute those tests, that's win-win. Because then SolidFire gets some visibility that, hey, we work with CloudStack. Look, this is green. This is like, we're good. And all the vendors can then start to have a feedback loop of like, look at this, we're integrated with CloudStack, our tests are green, everything that's coming in, we support it, this is good. It gives us a feedback loop between the vendors being able to, us being able to support vendors, and the vendors being able to support the project. And I think that that's a positive step for the project. As the Accelerate guys just pointed out, being able to categorize tests so that we don't have to run all of the tests against every PR, because it doesn't make sense that you run every test against every PR, but it does make sense that you run a general set of tests that do standard tests against networking and VM lifecycle and stuff like that. But like, if something changes, we want to be able to run extensive testing against the pieces that changed. And how exactly we implement that, there's definitely a debate to be had there. But the point is that we should have something like a 2 or 3 hour run that does all the general stuff, and then it will do another 3 hour run, essentially, it could be the same run, of just pounding the hell out of the actual functionality that just went in. And every possible test for that functionality gets run. But if it's completely on the other side of the world, you don't need to test, like, I don't know, all the storage stuff for a network change. But you better test everything that you can for a network change when you actually change that something related to that. Yeah, so this, I kind of covered the whole vendor situation with this, making it making the setup of a CI environment more consumable. I think I'm going to get back to that, but this may all seem like it's a long ways off. Surprisingly, actually, like if I was to look at this problem 3 weeks ago and look at it now, we're actually a lot closer than we were. I thought I was done with it. We're actually a lot closer than we were even 3 weeks ago, because we've had quite a bit of momentum around just like mind share and getting people involved and like starting to talk about the problems and how do we solve them. So I think that CI is one of those things that has the ability to solve a lot more than just quality. Obviously, quality is the big one that everybody is going to know that CI solves, because you just make sure shit works. But repeatability is something that it will also solve. Being able to have somebody say, hey, I have this environment and I have this problem. And you could say, okay, I'm going to reproduce this by configuring my CI to reproduce that environment, and then you can go and test it. So that is something that is very valuable. I think this is probably one of the biggest things that it gives us, the adoptability of the platform. Because if you do CI right, then you are essentially making it so that anybody can set up a working environment regardless of what their use case is. We're setting it up to basically be a working environment for test, but that doesn't mean a developer can't use the exact same setup, and they should, to get themselves up and running for their development environment or validating their development environment. IT professionals, people want to POC this stuff, right? If you set that up so that you can automatically, with 1 or 2 lines, get a person POCing the product, you're going to have much higher adoption rate because it's going to just be that easy. Best practices, by focusing on getting to the point where you can automate and get your CI environments up and running and as close to production as possible, then that then becomes a really good indicator of what a production environment should look like, because you can basically make sure over time improve your CI, the way that your CI environments are built and the environments that they are set up. And that's essentially a community collaboration on how the best way to actually set up an environment. And so the CI can mirror the best practices for production. And I feel like that is something that is I think that is going to be valuable just from a mindshare perspective. And this, I think, is actually really important as well. I always say that automation is the best documentation. And I practice that because I might not know, documentation has a tendency to be stale. Documentation is a pain in the butt to keep up to date. If you just automate, then every time that you need to know how this shit works, you go and look at what you scripted. And then it's like, hey, okay, that's right, I remember, that's why I did this, right? And you can comment your automation, obviously, but automation is absolutely the best documentation. And if we are automating things and we're building production environments through automation, and we are basically solving the problem of getting things up and running and making our product consumable through automation, we are building a huge amount of information about what our best practices are. How do you actually set up system VMs? Because a lot of people are they start to do a POC and they're like, what the hell, how do I get my templates to show up? How do I get this service to come up? What's the moving pieces here to make all of this stuff work, right? And all the moving pieces are here. We see all the moving pieces by automating them. And then the community can contribute to that. The community can then have a much better way to build in to oh, we should improve this. Go improve the automation. And all of a sudden, everybody takes advantage of the improvement. And the information is then better integrated into the way that we work. So yeah, this is a leap. It's definitely a little ways off, but at the same time, I feel like we have a lot of really good traction happening right now, and orienting ourselves in a way so that we are smart about how we solve these problems will solve huge problems for the project as a whole. And I think that we need to focus on the fact that don't solve this problem in isolation and don't solve it only for itself. Solve it for the bigger picture. And let's look at the bigger picture, because if we solve it for the bigger picture, we solve a lot more problems than just quality and just being able to like show that our product does work. We solve for many, many other problems. And I think that that's the important thing to remember in all of this, that we really do have an opportunity with all this momentum around CI. We have an opportunity to do really amazing things with this project. And so the conversation needs to stay open, and we need to continue to contribute to this, and we need to try to not focus on our little environment and our little ecosystem. We need to make sure that this conversation is a community conversation and that we solve this together, because I think it really is going to be, I think that this is the linchpin around how we move forward over the next year or two. I think this is really going to make an impact. So, kind of as a changing gears here as well, I think the slide works for both. We're about to do a hackathon, and as a bit of a primer to the hackathon, we're going to be giving you all bubble environments that you can basically start hacking from, and we're going to try to lower the bar as much as possible for you to be able to be effective in contributing with this hackathon. So you'll be getting an ACS management server with a couple hypervisors. It's going to be built on master already, so that a lot of the like work just to get something up and running is already going to be there. And oh yeah, did I mention that stabilizing tests was going to be important? So we're at the point where you can just run tests. So if you want to just look into some tests, the Accelerate guys were nice enough to isolate some tests that they have been able to isolate as being problems. So we'll, I might be able to get them to throw that on Slack or something like that, so that we can, that everybody can just see it and refer back to it. This just kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of the workflow in Bubble. I'm not doing an extensive thing here, and we're going to have a little bit more information here, but you essentially run one line before this to configure everything. And then this is one line to deploy CloudStack. This is one line to basically, this deploys the CloudStack management server. This basically deploys everything else, the hypervisors, everything. And this gets you the code, prepare CloudStack. It pretty much just pulls it down and you're good to go. And this allows you to, that basically deploys all of the, yeah, this creates the cloud with this configuration. It builds the source, it runs everything to make sure all the tests pass and everything like that. It deploys it, it does the deploy server, deploy DB, it sits and waits and makes sure that the system VMs are up, make sure that everything is good to go. And then actually if you do a -T after this, it will automatically run all the tests as well on the new environment that are set up. I've also added, like I've been doing a bunch of PRs and stuff like this against Bubble. You can also do like a -F and a path to a file, and it will run that set of tests. So if you only want to run one set of tests, you can just create a new test file and do a -T and then a -F, and it will push. It will do all of this and run your set of tests. So this is a super basic primer, and I think that's my last slide. Oh no, there we go. I'm gonna have Pierre-Luc is gonna come up and he's gonna give you a quick little primer for what you're gonna get. He's gonna basically hand off the. We're gonna give you each an environment, and he's gonna help hand off that that environment so you know how to do it. But for now, questions?
Any question for Will?
Should I check Slack? You just check Slack? Okay. Woohoo! By the way, thanks, Remy. Honestly, the Schubert guys, like, I started release management and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. If it wasn't for all the work that the Schubert guys have done, I would have been dead in the water. They essentially got me caught up on being able to test code and all the tools that they wrote for merging stuff and such. It was like dramatically, they lowered the bar to make it so that an invalid like me can actually be a successful release manager. That is a huge, we owe a lot to them, and I'm sorry that you guys aren't here, but I really do appreciate everything that they've done for us, because it really is amazing. All right, no more questions with that. Do you want to switch over?
Yeah.
Switch.
So for the idea around the hackathon is to team up